Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahna, and today I'll be accompanied by my group members Aisha, Nurin, and also Arisha. We are from Group Apple Pie, and we'll be presenting about COVID-19 impacts on ARH guru Korbahan Sendirian Berhad. This is the presentation flow, where first we'll be talking about the introduction, industry overview, and the company. Secondly, about the impact of COVID-19 on ARH through Korbahan. Third, we're going to study what ARH had implemented to cope with the COVID-19 impacts. Fourth, we'll see what are ARH's future plans in this recovery stage. Fifth, we're going to provide an analysis on ARH. And last but not least, we're going to provide a few recommendations for ARH. Firstly, the introduction. The construction industry in Malaysia is very prone and vulnerable to COVID-19. This is because its nature that is labor intensive. And there was also a COVID-19 cluster that emerged from construction sites, such as on May 2020, there was a cluster from Jalan Ampang, Kuala Lumpur. Next, there were also projects that were halted. This is because of COVID-19 restrictions, where the SOP measures indicated that not all employees could turn out to work at once, and this has caused the construction sites to not reach maximum capacity. And due to that, and also the unavailability of resources because of supply chain restrictions, thus projects are mostly either halted or cancelled. About ARH Drew Ukorbahan, this is actually a construction-related consultancy services firm where it specializes in providing quantity surveying services. It was incorporated in 1988 and it's registered under World of Quantity Surveys Malaysia and also Ministry of Finance. The reason why it's registered under Ministry of Finance is because it actively participates in tendering and also rendering services for government projects. And currently, the company is headed by its managing director, which is Dato S.R. Hisham, and the company employs around 160 staff. ARH Juru Ukobahan is also associated with an international firm under the brand Tillyard, where Tillyard has multiple locations across the United States, the UK, Canada, Venezuela, and Nigeria.
ARH was impacted by the pandemic. However, the level of the impacts is different from one aspect to one another. COVID-19 left two significant impacts toward ARH Juruukubahan Seberang Berhad. The profit and revenue dropped from 30% to 40% and 50% to 60% respectively as compared to the pre-pandemic financial performance. This has also affected on how ARH select the project to work on. With the poor financial strength, they have to accept the project from clients who have strong financial and also the project with high estimated profit only. COVID-19 also have left some significant impacts towards the people in terms of how they work. For Human Resource Division, they face a difficulty in monitoring the attendance of the employees as now they cannot rely on the time and attendance machine. Instead, they have to use WhatsApp. Besides, the pandemic has also affected the work as an accountant. The accountant work become more challenging because they need to bring all of the required files home to work from home. However, some of the required documents cannot be accessed from working from home. Sometimes they need to go to the office just to access the private files being placed in the locked room in the office. On top of that, the contract quantity surveyor felt that the pandemic did not affect his job scope because he has been familiar doing the work online remotely even before the pandemic. A site quantity surveyor found out that he was very worried about his health because he still needed to go to the site during the MCO 1.0. The working environment at the site was uneasy because the site was congested with workers. Even all of the workers has followed the strict SOP provided by the government. Then, as the COVID-19 cases has increased rapidly, he could not go to the site. However, he can still do his work by evaluating and verifying based on the photos and the videos received from the contractors from the site. Then let us move forward to the technological impacts of COVID-19 towards the ARH Juruukur Sendirian Berhad. The pandemic has driven ARH to be more creative and innovative in terms of exploring more online meeting platform and more database and software for quantity surveying that is using a more advanced technology. The examples are the Dina-Link and also the QS OneDrive. From the customer aspects, there are some miscommunication issues occurred during the online negotiation meeting. This is because ARH could not see the client's body gesture during the negotiation process. Plus, ARH also faced some delays in receiving response from the customers. This might be because of the different working policy implemented between the clients and ARH. However, ARH was able to maintain a good customer relationship because they still provide the best quality of services despite having to face the pandemic. The delay in the services provided by ARH is also reasonable and acceptable for the clients. The final impact is in terms of the ARH supply chain. COVID-19 does not really affect the supply chain of ARH. The indirect impact was received due to the impact of COVID-19 towards the suppliers for the construction. There were some shortages of supplies for construction during the pandemic. Therefore, this caused less new projects to be offered to the ARH, and this can also slow down the progress of the ongoing project.
Following the impact explained by Aisha, there are a few changes made by ARH Juruku Bahan Sedang Berhad due to this pandemic of COVID-19. Changes are made for ARH itself to adapt with the pandemic situation. So the first one will be ARH changed its standard operating procedure by issuing invoices more frequently to their clients due to this pandemic in order to keep the pace of their collecting the payment. And the second one will be ARH imposed a cost reduction strategy due to the declining of revenue during the pandemic that started in early of 2020. Since the existing projects that are taken by ARH are not really affected as their projects are not terminated during the pandemic. So they believe that by cost cutting, it can benefit them to increase profitability. ARH imposed a 10% deduction of employee salary that is above 4,000. They also apply a wage subsidy program by Perkeso for employee salary that is below 4,000. Then they reduce the mileage claim as there is no travel allowed to clients' offices during the Early Movement Control Order 1.0, which is MCO 1.0. ARH also cut the unnecessary expenses of their projects, and as for now, they are likely to choose clients or projects that can minimize their cash outflow. The third one would be their main medium of payment that changed from checks to online banking, either receiving from clients or paying to suppliers. Then ARH has to implement working from home for all employees in regards with SOP imposed by Malaysian government during MCO 1.0. All employees are not even allowed to go to the offices, and all physical meetings are changed to online meetings with the employees, and even to communicate with clients using any online platforms such as Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. So one of the employees that was interviewed by us, which is Encik Hafiz, a site quantity surveyor, he normally works at the construction site prior to COVID-19. He stated that his work structure changed during the first phase of MCO as he needs to do evaluation on site virtually with what contractors provide in photos or videos, recorded or live or with drones instead of going to the site himself. Due to the significant increasing of COVID-19 cases over time, ARH implement a rotational basis during the recovery period, and then they allowed the employees to go to the office, but with a reduced working hours from 9 to 8 hours. Recently, the MCO 3.0 has been announced by government due to the rising number of COVID-19 cases. So ARH has imposed the rotational basis, but with only 50% employees in a day and with still 8 working hours.
My name is Noreen, and I will be talking about the future plans for the company. So, going forward, the company has plans to secure more projects so that they can create more revenue and more job opportunities. It is essential for the company to get more projects as it is the source of revenue so that they can retain their business. Besides that, the company also have no plans on reducing the salary of their employees in the future, as they have already implemented this during the uh, pandemic. The 10% salary cut was already enough, and they do not want to demotivate the employees. Dato Hisham, who is one of the founder director of the company, strongly believes in the employee welfare. He emphasized not on not reducing the number of employees and that there will be no retrenchment in the future despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Besides that, ARH does not plan to continue the current flexible payment scheme for their customers, as this would result in the company's cash flow problems in the long run. This measure is only taken for the pandemic period where some clients are having difficulties in meeting their commitment and to help them ensure their survival. With that goal in mind, ARH plans to invest more in the well-being of their employees, especially the mental health, as the pandemic is causing a huge challenge to everyone. It is important to ensure a healthy state of mind to avoid disruption in the productivity and decline in the company performance. ARH plans to provide more medical coverage and insurance to their employees. There are no plans with regards to the technological aspect of the firm. The current capacity is able to support the company during the remote working period. Some employees have voiced out that it is more convenient for them to work from home rather than to go out to the office since they do not have to spend time traveling. The company also could save more money from paying the travel claims to the employees. Lastly, from the financial aspect, they really hope that the government will give assistance in the form of tax breaks, moratorium, lower interest, fee waivers, and more. Financial planning is important to ensure the company is able to meet the future goals and to ensure the business development. Therefore, ARH plans to use all of its core competencies in the financial, customer, and people aspect to streamline the business's supply, to maximize the customer's value, and gain a competitive edge in the market.
Next, moving on to the analysis. From the financial perspective, we found that ARH faced a major decline in revenue amounting up to 50 to 60%. This was in line with EY's COVID business impact survey. where a lot of nation SMEs also found it hard to sustain their cash flow. Now, ARH's decline in revenue was majorly contributed by the delay in collection of payment from clients. And when we further asked what were the remedies done to solve this issue, they mentioned that they issued multiple invoices to their clients in order to remind them about their payment. They also asked their management to approach the client in a good manner to communicate them and remind the clients about their payment deadlines. ARH also provided credit term extensions and also discounted service fees in order to expedite the collection of revenue. And this was actually a good strategy to actually gain liquidity and maintain a decent amount of liquidity. And even for AirAsia suppliers, they also opted for credit extension as well in order to retain their cash as long as they could. And from our side, what we think is that the management was very proactive in trying to solve the company's financial concerns. And they are also very competent because they managed to handle the situation well and negotiate with clients and also suppliers in order to maintain their liquidity. However, we think that it is also a concern because the battle against COVID is not over yet. So they might need a stronger backup plan in order to solve this issue. From the viewpoint of the employees, in line with EY's survey, ARH also faced delays in tasks because a lot of the files and systems that the employees use are situated at the office. So it makes it hard to commute between home and also the office and to carry a lot of files in order to conduct their work. There was also delays in acquiring documents from clients because of the different rotation schedules. And ARH's employees had to suffer from 10% of salary pay cuts, but this was only like for those who earned 4,000 ringgit and above. We think that this is actually fairly reasonable because a lot of employees out there in the construction industry are already being laid off. But the fact that ARH maintained to retain all of his employees at such a minor salary cut is actually good. However, it might be counterintuitive in the long run because it might affect the employee's morale. And there is a concern regarding how ARH operates by not providing any technical support to its employees, where there was no training conducted to maneuver through the technology and also online applications to work from home. And what they did is that it's only up to the younger co-workers' discretion to teach the older generation on how to use these online meetings and other technology in order to cope with remote working.
Next is the analysis on the technology. ARH reported that they have difficulties at the beginning, especially when adopting the use of online meeting platforms. This is especially true for the older generation of the company. This is similar to the 26% of SMEs that reported having difficulties with customers or suppliers. Besides that, there was no training provided for the employees to use the online technologies. For employees that have having difficulties, the more tech-savvy employees will help in providing assistance on a voluntary basis. This is similar to the survey where only 13% of the SME reported providing training to enable effective use of online technology. Next is the analysis on the customer aspect. There has been no fall in demand from the government project, but there is lack of supply due to the limited capacity of work by the industry, which is the company is only operating at 50% capacity as per the government instruction for the MCO. Next, there was an insufficient access to customer and 26% of SMEs had the same issue. ARH employees were not able to go to the client's office for meetings. Therefore, the company uses Microsoft Teams and Google Meet to communicate with their clients. Some challenges of using the online meeting is that negotiation cannot be done effectively due to the absence of facial expression, body language, voice tone, and other stuff. One advantage of using the online meeting platform is that the meeting can be recorded for later references. Next, due to the financial difficulties experienced by the clients, ARH did allow more flexible payment options such as allowing a delay of 30 to 40 days, installment payments, and give discounted fees. Although these measures are not good measures in the long run for the company, it is more important for the company to ensure that the clients still pay and to maintain a good relationship with them. All in all, there seem to be no significant issues regarding the customer satisfaction. Next is the analysis of the supply chain. Since the company is a service-based company, their suppliers are mostly for stationery, paper, hand sanitizer, and more. Since more staff are working from home, we can conclude that there is an accumulation of stationery and other office supplies. 40% of SME respondents have deferred payment, order, and request discount. Contrary to 16% of SME respondents, ARH did not expand their supplier base. They have kept with their current suppliers. Lastly, ARH has a credit facility with their banks. They use it when the company is short on their expenses. This measure is good instead of getting a loan to cover their expenses.
Now we are moving to the last section, which is the recommendations for ARH Juru Ukur Bahan, Sedan Berhad. So firstly, we would like to recommend ARH to establish a balanced scorecard, which is to work on its performance, especially if the pandemic extended in the future. So what is balanced scorecard? It is actually established by Kaplan and Norton in 1992, and balanced scorecard is used widely now by organizations around the world. So it is a performance management tool in which organizations are able to transform their strategy and vision that will result in an execution and implementation them in order to achieve them. Thus, it can help ARH to execute their strategy planning through the tool and to measure their performance very well. Well, not many SMEs have developed a balanced scorecard because of their small organizational structure, but it started to grow around SMEs. So, balanced scorecard can definitely benefit ARH, which they can have a better structure of their operation and strategy planning. They can measure their performance through the development of balanced scorecard with the perspectives of financial, customer, learning and growth, and internal business. First, ARH can measure in terms of its financial processes perspective on its growth, sustainability, and classify the profitability of their strategy during the pandemic and even post-pandemic. And in terms of customer perspective, since the main operation of ARH is to provide services of quantity surveying, thus they can measure the feedback on the point of view of their clients. Then in terms of learning and growth perspective, they can provide employee incentives and rewards in order to capture the satisfaction level of employees to increase their productivity level of working. And the last one would be the internal business processes perspective, which to measure the level of efficiency on the operations of the organization.
Second recommendation, we would like to suggest ARH to provide the internet package data plan to their employees. This can also help in preventing the connectivity problem from occurring. These measures can be done by cutting more unnecessary expenses and allocate the money to provide the internet data plan package to the employees. In order to avoid the internet data plan from being misused, ARH can block the unnecessary websites or links that are not related to the work. Our last recommendation is related to the current situation, which is the increase in the COVID-19 cases reported per day. So, the best recommendation for ARH Juru Ukur Sendirian Berhad is they must encourage their employees to go for vaccination. It's because the Kuala Lumpur branch is in the red zone of COVID-19. On top of that, ARH must also monitor their employees to ensure that their employees are following strict SOP.